What's up, everybody? It's your boy back with another video, and I will be reacting to 3 disturbing true blackout horror stories. This is from Mr. Nightmare. So I'll be putting a link to this video in the description so you go check it out yourself. Over on his channel, show him some love, like, comment, subscribe over there. And if you like me, I like to watch his videos. Like when I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I just put like one of his playlists, or a lot of time it'll just play the next one. If you go to uploads and just watch him until I fall asleep, and then it continues to watch for like another 2 hours until my PlayStation turns itself off. But yeah, so Blackout. I've said this before in other videos. I used to have a really bad fear of the dark when I was a kid. I got over it. I think I was maybe 8 or 9. Wait a minute. I'm trying to think of where I was living at the time, and I remember where I was at. Where I was living at the time, so it could have been actually might have been 9 or 10. Maybe no, I don't think it was 11. It was like 9 or 10 when I got over the fear. It was a horrible fear. And where we were living at the time, anytime it would be lightning storms, power would go out. Sometimes the power would just go out because they were fixing like a transformer or something. And you could see the transformers from my apartment because they had one like it was near an intersection. And one time a truck hit it. I actually was looking. I was actually on the on a balcony, and sometimes I'd be sitting out there, and actually saw. I actually saw the pickup truck jump the curb, go over. I don't know why the transformer was right there. Jump over and hit the transformer. As soon as it hit it, boom, everything went out. And it's so weird to see. It's like in movies when you see power outage, and you see all the lights just go out. It was just like that, just like, and also that was at the place where I was living at, where I was surrounded by cemeteries, and then there was a factory right next to us where they made cemetery tombstones. They also made like they had like granite and what was it? I think it's coarse, like for countertops and stuff. Cause you can see. Then I didn't know, but I remember them shipping out. Anyone who's bought countertops or granite countertops or anything like that, you go out and pick a slab. Like I want this one, and then they'll cut it. They'll come out measured and cut it in the dimensions it's supposed to be. And but I only saw tombstones. Because they made those. I was like, that's an interesting place to make tombstones surrounded by cemeteries. But anyway, let's get into this. All right, here we go.
I used to work as a construction worker and engineer in the Philadelphia area in my early 20s. My co-workers and I would do basic work like constructing add-ons to already standing structures, like adding basements to buildings. One of our jobs in 2012 was to construct a small basement area and extend the main floor for a corner dentist building. The basement was to have a bathroom and 2 big storage areas. We were making serious progress. By the time of this story, we had working lights in the basement already. The basement had just been sealed off, so there was no longer a big hole in the ground, and since the lights were working down there, we had a source of light while we worked down there at night. One of my coworkers, Jordan, went upstairs and then outside to help with work on the add-on section outside. I was tinkering with the electrical components a bit. I was no electrician, but I had a basic understanding of what I was doing. But suddenly the power went out. I knew it had nothing to do with what I was doing. I figured there must have been a power outage in the vicinity. The four of us
You
didn't keep
built
our
this
phones
on
on
an
us due to
ancient
the nature of our
Indian
jobs,
burial
plus how
ground.
dirty our hands would get. We all kept them in our jackets that we hung upstairs, but luckily one of the tools we kept in our vests were flashlights. Before I could even reach and grab for my flashlight, though, I started to hear a rattling noise. The closest way I could come to describing it was a bag of coins being shaken.
Yeah, that's what I was
Not
thinking.
exactly, but close enough.
Someone
It seemed to come from inside the tiny,
kind of
soon-to-be
shaking a
bathroom.
chain link fence.
I took the flashlight out from the pouch on my vest, turned it on, and aimed it towards the bathroom section. We had already put up a door, and it was slightly closed to be covering my view from the actual room itself. It didn't sound like any kind of
He keeps
infrastructural
the
sound,
sound going.
so I had to imagine it was one of my coworkers. I went to the door, and as I wrapped my hand around the side of the door, I waited a second before pulling it open, just because I needed to gather my bearings. But when I did swing open that door, my flashlight revealed some person dressed in all black, standing facing the corner of the tiny room so that I couldn't see their face.
Some Blair Witch
That
shit.
is, until the person turned their head like a deer reacting to a sound in the woods. All I saw through the flashlight was the glow in their eyes. I slammed the door shut and ran up the stairs in my heavy boots, looking for my coworkers. They were all outside.
Yeah, I've seen
apparently
shit.
about
I've
ready to
seen
pack
views
up and
just
call
like
it a night
this.
since the power in all the nearby buildings had gone out. I counted 3 of my coworkers, so it couldn't have been any of them in that tiny room. I asked all of them if anybody else who worked in that building had been there at all that night. They all shook their heads no. So at this point, I had to lead them downstairs to show them the creepy stranger in the basement. They followed me to the basement and to the tiny room, and as I feared would happen, that person I saw wasn't in there anymore.
Of course.
Or the entire basement for that matter. I was obviously embarrassed when they didn't believe me, but I wasn't going to hold them hostage and make them believe me. So we all went back outside and packed up. I was the one with the key to the building, so I had to lock up when everyone left. After getting into my car and seeing the others drive off, I can't describe it, but I got a feeling inside of me that made me want to go back down into that basement.
Man, you
and check
crazy.
one more time for that person I was sure that I saw.
No.
I took a deep breath, got out, unlocked the door to the building, and went back down to the basement.
Gotta be a curious
The power
motherfucker,
was
though.
still out, so I walked down the stairs with 2 flashlights on.
Ain't you ever heard
the one I
curiosity
used
killed the
before,
cat?
And now my phone as well. I made it to the bottom step and then stopped. The dead silence in this cramped, unfinished basement, mixed with the fact that I was anticipating a sound, freaked me out to the point that I was about to turn around and go back upstairs. When suddenly,
That's
I
your
heard the rattling
instincts.
again, coming from the tiny room again. I didn't even look, but when I heard it, I felt my heart in my throat, and I stormed up the stairs, slamming the basement door shut again. I locked the door to the building and drove home. Thank God it was a Saturday, so I wouldn't have to be back until Monday.
And he heard
I made sure
that
not to
noise
work in that
outside
basement alone anymore,
his
however,
window.
and thankfully we finished the work within a couple weeks, and nothing else really strange ever happened.
Yeah, you crazy trying to go back. You so curious. I gotta go down there and investigate. Man, fuck that.
It was a normal night in the cold month of February. My wife and I were watching a late-night movie in our room in bed before going to sleep. At some point in the movie, the TV suddenly shut off, and the room went dark. My wife and I let out simultaneous grunts in annoyance. The lamps, clocks, everything went out, so the power must have gone out. I told my wife I'd go outside and check if the neighbors lost power too. I opened the front door and stepped out onto the stoop for only a second or two because it was freezing outside, but I could see lights on in the neighbors' houses, so it seemed to be just us who lost power. We have a fuse box in a small boiler-type room in our basement. It seemed unlikely it could have anything to do with that, but I had to give it a shot. I had no idea what else I could do. I went downstairs with a flashlight. One weird thing about our house is you have to walk down the stairs to get to the basement door. Like, the door is literally on the basement level. I was tired, so I kind of slowly and lazily stomped down the steps. When I got to the basement door at the bottom, I turned the doorknob and tried opening the door. It wouldn't push open, though. I tried a little harder, but it still wouldn't budge. My wife must have locked it. I went all the way back upstairs to ask my wife where she put the basement key. She got out of bed and said she'd get it for me. I followed her downstairs to the kitchen where we had a key hanger. She flipped around the many keys until she pulled off the basement key and handed it to me. She then went back upstairs to the bedroom, while I went back down the stairs to the basement door. I put the key in the lock and turned it to the right, then tried opening the door again, but it still wouldn't open. I went back up the stairs and called for my wife to come down.
Somebody pressing on the door.
Asked for help like a child, since she was the only one to ever lock this door. She came down the stairs with her flashlight, making fun of me for not being able to use a wooden door. And before she even tried using the key, she turned the doorknob and gave one good push, and the door creaked open. I was dumbfounded. I swore up and down the door wouldn't open. Then I joked that I loosened it up for her. Once again, she went upstairs to the bedroom. I entered the basement, flicking the light switch on, which only led to more darkness. Flashlight still in hand, I went to the boiler room. When I got inside of there, I tinkered with all the switches, flipping them from one side to the other, until finally the lights in the basement flicked on. I was relieved. I shut the tiny door to the fuse box.
Think I'd be asking what trip to break.
Just then, however, there was a sound from outside of the boiler room. The sound of one of the basement closet doors creaking. I took a peek outside at both of the doors. One was closed, the other was slightly cracked open. My heart started beating faster as I went over to the door. I stood about 2 feet away from that door, listening. For some reason, it took until then for me to think. Why? How would the switch in our fuse box for power be switched off all of a sudden?
Why would you be thinking in the first place?
Then I started to think. What if the basement door was never locked? What if someone was simply pulling it shut? After a few moments of silence, I heard a deep exhale in the closet. I took off for the stairs, this time making sure to lock the door behind me. I had never ran up a flight of stairs so quickly in my life. I ran to our bedroom and yelled in distress to my wife. I was not acting like the man of the house at all. I'll admit I was too afraid.
Man, fuck all that. You damn right you should be afraid.
At some point,
you don't know who that is or how many people.
Before the police arrived, we heard the sound of glass breaking outside. I looked out my window, but it was too dark to see anything in the backyard. When the police arrived, I led them quickly to the basement, but by then the closet door was completely open and it was empty. We also noticed shattered glass in one corner of the basement, and things knocked all over the floor. Whoever was in the closet managed to climb up a ledge where we keep collectibles, smash the window, and climb up out of the basement to the outside. In other words, they escaped and were never caught. That night we kept the basement and living room lights on all night, and locked every door in the house.
Wow.
The next day we had the glass fixed. We don't even live in a bad neighborhood, so it's really scary to think that something like this could happen to basically anyone.
Well, it's weird that they cut off they flipped the breakers, and then for you to come down, they should have figured someone's gonna come down.
As a janitor at a community college campus I won't disclose for my own privacy and safety.
It's dumb on their part.
My job entails cleaning the hallways, classrooms, and bathrooms of varying buildings on campus. Usually I work later hours in the day, like 1 to 9, when the campus is less crowded. There was a stormy night in the summer that I was working. The college offers summer courses, obviously, so yes, I work in the summer too. This was during one of the biggest storms we've had that year. Extreme winds mixed with a torrential downpour. It was later in my shift, anywhere from 7 to 8 o'clock. I was currently in the activity center hall, which didn't hold any classes, just a big ballroom, a small theater, and varying classroom type rooms used for general purposes. It was usually one of the quieter buildings on campus, apart from when events were being held in it. I very well may have been the only person in that building at that hour. I was cleaning in the downstairs section of the building, which held the game room, when suddenly the whole place went dark. Like pitch black, except for the red glow of an exit sign near the doorway to the stairs.
I ain't gonna lie, that I
went out. I took out my phone and called one of the other janitors who was working in another building. He told me the power went out in his building too, which meant the whole campus probably lost power due to the storm. After hanging up, I figured my job down there was done, so I followed the glow of the exit sign, but nearly shit myself when I saw someone peering their head from around the stairway. I called out thinking it was maybe someone who worked in the building, but before I could even really say anything, they disappeared upstairs. I ran to the stairway to try and follow, given that I would have to most likely lock up the building now and had to make sure everyone was outside. Quite frankly, when I got upstairs, I didn't know what to do in the total darkness.
It's a ghost.
There were very few backup lights that were still lit in case of blackouts, and they were very, very dim, only lighting up basically a little around their immediate surroundings. I started calling out in the dark, seemingly empty building that I had to close up. Everyone and anyone must get out. The hallway in this building did one big circle around the big ballroom, and backup lights were distributed throughout the hallway. However, like I said, they were far between and extremely dim. I started doing my round through the hallway, and I was pretty sure I heard footsteps behind me. I turned when I was under one of the backup lights, but I didn't see anything behind me. I continued around the hallway, checking each room. When I checked the last bathroom and found no one, I figured the building was empty and safe to lock up. Walking to the front of the building, I heard footsteps again.
Yeah, this is
I knew
some
someone had to be
supernatural
behind me.
bullshit.
I turned and saw a silhouette standing in the dark just beyond one of the dim lights. I called out, "You have to leave the building," but the way they were standing there just made me uncomfortable. And just then,
They were like,
I
"You
turned
can't
the other
leave."
way out of sight. I didn't know what to do, but chasing someone and physically removing them from the building was above my pay grade. I continued for the
So I
front
don't
door,
get paid
planning on
enough for
calling
that
campus
shit.
police. When I got to the front door of the building, I turned back to the darkness that was the lobby of this building, and about 20 feet away from me, I saw that silhouette again, this time hiding behind a half-open door. I say silhouette because all I could see was a black figure. I didn't see any body or facial features.
The hell was that?
I left the building and called the campus police.
Fucked with my eyes for a
A
second.
couple of them came to check out the building, but they couldn't find anyone. Later that night, I got a disturbing phone call. It was campus police. They asked me to describe the person I saw the best I could, but I truly couldn't. I couldn't see anything about them. Then they dropped a bomb and told me there was a killer in the area who was in hiding and was spotted by a local resident near the college campus.
Maybe it wasn't
When I
supernatural.
hung up the phone, I felt a shiver run up my spine. I didn't get much sleep that night. I also didn't feel safe at work for a while after that.
And then he was like, he looked at the phone, he looked up, and it's just like the silhouettes behind him. Then it like teleport right behind him, and it just cuts to black. Yeah, it's shit like that. Like, and pitch blackness. If I'm at work and that happens, if the lights just cut off, I'm just like, it's time to go home now. We ain't no power. It's time to leave. Like, especially if I work somewhere and it's at night, I'm like, it's time to go. The power's out. It's time to leave. Like, I worked places where, excuse me, where the power is going out and it's daytime. Like, oh well, even though everything is on computers, oh well, we can just sit here and I guess take people's information or tell them, like, hey, send me an email and I'll do it when the power comes back. I'm like, they could do that on their own. Just put a sign on the door. Why are we sitting in here? Like, just to tell the customer that we can't help them. Like, I was like, what the fuck? This is stupid. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't like that. I'm with that guy. Like, I'm not going. If I'm a janitor, ain't no way I'm going chasing somebody to tell them, hey, you can't be here and chase people down and shit like that. I was like working at a grocery store or department store, and you are just an employee there. Like, you may be one of the people who fold the clothes or hang up stuff, or you're a cashier. I do not get paid to chase people, shoplifting shops. I'm not. That's not my job. Like, that's security job or the police job. And you can call them, but I'm just gonna be like, you do feel like I don't know if it's just me, but you feel like a instinct to chase. I don't know if that's an animalistic thing. But like, I worked at places where like I worked at a movie store where someone snatched a movie and tried to run out with it, and they ran out with it, but they had to run past the front desk where I was at. And when they ran past the front desk, they just like, I saw them holding it, and they were kind of just standing there. So they looked suspicious. They were looking over their shoulder at me, and I'm just like, and I think they figured they look suspicious now, so they they just darted to the door, and I instinctively ran out to them, ran after them, and I was right behind him too. I mean, as soon as he was at the door, I was already had jumped. I had jumped over because we had like a thing where you can move the counter, they kind of pick it up so you can walk out, and I jumped over, like vaulted over, started chasing him, and I stopped at the door, and I remember the manager that she's like, yeah, don't chase. She told me like later on that night it was close. She said, yeah, don't chase people. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of, and I was like instinct. I just instantly started chasing them. But I was like, yeah, I would normally I wouldn't. I don't think I would do that. But or I would stop. I'm like, what the hell am I chasing this person for? I'm like, it's just a movie. She's like, yeah, we can get more. Though. She's like, don't chase because one thing. Because I was like, as well. She was saying it too, but you don't know what this person got. This person got a knife, a gun. You don't know what they are willing to do uh, to you to get away. You don't know. So I was like, shit. And I'm not getting paid anywhere near. It's not even my job. Also, I'm not getting paid enough to do to chase people. Like I don't. But yeah, it like I said, even when because the power where I live at now goes off like it goes off more frequently than I would like. But even when it has gone off, because sometimes it don't even be a storm, but it'll just go out, or they'll be working on some blow or whatever in there. And you call them and tell them, they say we're working on it, and we've had a high frequency of calls, and we're working on the problem. And I be sitting here, and all of a sudden everything go choo. I was like, what is making that noise? It would go, choo. Only thing my don't go off is my laptop, obviously, because it switches to the battery. My TV go off, PlayStation go off, all the lights go off. I'm just like, oh shit. And then I get up, and I was like, and I had to go look outside, and I said, okay, either everybody's lights off on my block, or sometimes like if it's usually like a lightning storm or something, everybody's lights will be off. But if it's like if they're working on something, I notice all the lights are off on my street. But oh well, on this side of the street that I'm on, but the opposite side, their lights will still be on. I'm like, okay, they're working on something. They're usually off maybe. One time they were working on something. The power was off for like 2 days. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that, but and it was like I said that in that time it was no thunderstorm or anything. They were replacing something, and I forget what the lady told me, but they were replacing something, and the power was off for 2 days. But I remember one time lightning storm. It was real. It was a tornado. And it was a real bad storm, and the power was off for a week. But there's nothing. I mean, when I was down south during Hurricane Katrina, the power was off for 2 weeks. And it was out longer for people who didn't live in town. But that was crazy. Like all the stuff. So we trying to get ice and stuff like that, and it took I don't know a couple days to get ice. So pretty much everything in the refrigerator had spoiled. Well, not everything, cause we started trying to. My dad just started. He bought not but right before that he bought like a propane tank, a propane like cooker. Or you get a smaller propane tank, hook it on the side. You can cook on like kind of like a stove, a portable stove. And luckily he had just bought that I think like a month or so before the the hurricane hit. And he just bought that just because it was on sale. It had nothing to do with the hurricane. He just bought it. It was on sale, so he just bought it. And luckily we had that, so he cooked everything. that he could. Um, but like all the vegetables, some of the vegetable stuff we had that went bad. Uh, it had some other stuff in it that went bad, but yeah, I remember trying to find like I found like ice. I just keep my ear to the ground. Find ice. Found out that the National Guard was handing out MREs. I got a bunch of those. I got a bunch of bread. I got a bunch of other like bunch of stuff. Yeah, found a place to get gas. I remember I sat in line to get gas. I found out they was giving gas away at Walmart, and I stood in line to get gas. And I had gotten there. I was 2 or 3 cars from the front, and my car was on because I had procrastinated and said I ain't gonna get gas before the hurricane hit. I'll wait until afterwards. And that hurricane hit, fucked everything up, and I was on E. Pretty much. Well, I had like I think like 50 miles maybe before I was on E. And but by that time I was on pretty much on E. Like, I had to cut my car off. I was at the point I was because none of the lights were working. So when I went somewhere, like I just it was like traffic, like, and we weren't moving. I just cut the car. That's how bad it was. But I remember I was sitting there in line and I fell asleep. I woke up. I was sitting there for like 13 hours waiting for that because I got in line waiting for that to open. And a bunch of people had the same idea. That line was so long for those people. I mean, it was ridiculous how long that line was. And I remember when they finally opened it up, I saw police were up there and I think some other emergency vehicles, and they were saying like, "Oh, this gas is supposed to be for emergency vehicles, not and for police, firefighters, ambulance, stuff like that." And I'm like, and this it must have been some miscommunication. And I remember cause I saw people stand up to talk, and I went over there and I was like, "What's going on?" And then one of the police officers told me that, and I was like, and he was talking about they probably going to telling people they gotta leave. I was like, man, I said, I've been here 13 hours, dude. Well, I think I said I've been over 12 hours. I said some of these other people came in and they've been here just as long as I have. I said, if you try to tell people that none of them can get gas, I said, you are gonna have a problem. Cause I said I was here yesterday in Walmart, and people try to go into the store. They thought they could just get stuff out of Walmart, and Walmart was throwing away a bunch of meat because uh, they like the air conditioner and the generators that uh, the power and everything that works the freezers keeps the freezers on went out the night before, so it had been like I don't know, like 15 hours or more since the freezer had been on. So they were like, we can't give the meat away because people can say we gave them bad meat and then they try to sue us. And people like, we don't care. People's out in the parking lot, but we don't care. Just give us the food. If you're gonna throw it away, just give it to them. We can't give it to you for legal reasons. And the people were standing up there. I started noticing because I was standing there in the parking lot. And I started noticing people was getting like sticks and bats and pipes and shit. And I was just like, whoa, this is like, I was like, I think these people are about to storm this place because they ended up throwing stuff in the trash. People went back there in the trash and got that stuff. Because they like, if you get it out of the trash, that's you, you know. But they can't give it to you, like let you go in the store and get it and stuff like that. And it was like people like they were ready to fuck Walmart up. And I remember I told the guy that, and I was like, you don't, you don't think some of these people. I said I'll just leave if that's the case, but some of these people, you're not gonna be able to. Some of these people, you're gonna have a riot or something on your hands. So what they did was they said, okay, well, people can get gas, but the emergency vehicles got to go first. So all those vehicles filled up, and then they said, uh, that everyone else can only get $20 worth of gas. So all the emergency vehicles filled up, and then I get my $20, and then I remember one of the officers told me uh, when I was in there filling up, he said they opened up a gas station down the street, and I hadn't been in that gas station in years. I thought that one closed down, and he's like, you can go up there. He said just up the road. I knew he was talking about, so I was like, shit, I get. So as soon as I finished getting my $20 there, I left and went up there and got another. I think I guess it was another like 20. I think it was $25 cap on that gas. I got that, and then I went in the store and bought a bunch of shit. And they even was giving away some stuff. And like I had a bunch of stuff. I was keeping my ear to the ground, listening for anything. We had so much stuff that I'd gotten, like ice and just different, non-perishable items and stuff like that. That we were giving it to like other people who lived in an apartment complex. Was like ice, uh, it's big, huge bags of ice and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember when that power went out, and like I think people who were outside of town was out power for I think months, because they had to, a lot of the poles had been knocked down, so they had to get people out of the build and fix multiple poles and stuff. So it was a nightmare. But and then people were stealing, like people started looting the night, because when the hurricane hit, it hit like I want to say that morning, like early that morning. It was still like nighttime. I want to say it might have been like midnight, or maybe like one. Might have been a little bit, but might have been a little bit later, maybe like maybe at 3. But I remember when it hit, it woke me up, and you hear that wind just whistling, and because I was awake in the sun, I mean not the sun, but you see it was daytime, and then water started coming through the outlets. Because I walked in my room because I was standing at the door looking at the wind and just shaking like our cars and all the cars in the parking lot and just ripping through the, because we had like a wooded area right next to our apartment complex, and that shit went through there, ripped all the bark off the trees. You could see, and because before it was like so thick you couldn't see into that little wooded area. It ripped all that shit out and ripped the bark off the trees. I was like, shit. And I remember when the eye passed over, you could see it was so big, because I think that eye was, they said, was like 200 miles or something wide. And it almost like looked uh like what's the name of that movie? Uh, it's like the day after, not the day after tomorrow. What is that? What it's called? The day after tomorrow. It had Jake Gyllenhaal and I think it was his name, Dennis Quaid. I think is his name. It was in it. It's his father. I think it was the day after tomorrow. But they had when it was it had like ice hurricanes or something that people like freezing instantly. like when they were looking at when they went in the eye of the storm, and you could see like the rim, like it looked kind of like that. Like, and I was like, holy shit! And you could see the sun. It was like it looked like just a beautiful day, and then you could see the eye again, like it was passing over us. And then as soon as it came back, it just like everything just oh man, yeah. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed my reaction one. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe when you're here. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.